Hi, welcome back to Space Thoughts. Today it's going to be a short video, but there's something that I've been seeing off and on over the past couple weeks, and that's this idea of space pollution. Uh, I think I talked about this a few weeks ago when I was talking about the Viasat motion or for their preliminary injunction. They talk about quote space pollution within their motion, and the question is, what is space pollution? Now, I think in the case what Viasat is saying is they're conflating space pollution with orbital space debris. However, space pollution sounds a little bit more dramatic, I suppose. But I've seen this term coined in other conversations and questioned people about it. And what's the sense of what's the reason for it? And I really haven't got a clear answer for it. Now, for one thing, I don't know what space pollution is. You know what? I really don't know. But to be honest, I don't know what space debris is either. A year ago, I did a video on my legal test or my legal or policy test for space debris. I think it was on July 18th. You can go to the video section and look at that if you want. But even then, my big point was, we have this thing called orbital space debris, but we don't have a real definition of what makes space debris. So my issue here is this, seeing this term space pollution is why are we bringing this new term in to outer space activities? Honestly, I think in the case of the motion with Viasat's motion over NEPA, I think they're doing that specifically to give this a much more ominous feel to the motion itself. Orbital space debris has certain connotations and evokes certain emotions, but pollution definitely is a hot button with a lot of people, and will probably evoke more sympathies, more emotions, more outrage, what have you. So I think in the case of their motion, that's why they're doing it. On the other hand, I'm looking at NEPA, and again, we're not going to go into NEPA on this video. How I feel about NEPA in outer space. But I think this idea of space pollution is being proffered to actually legitimize the use of Earth-based environmental laws like NEPA to apply to outer space. In other words, instead of going and passing new laws and looking at space individually, we're going to use these decades-old environmental laws and we're going to apply them to outer space by calling orbital space debris space pollution. Other than orbital debris, what else is there that is space pollution? Radiation. Well, radiation is basically that's nature's doing up there, and there's a lot of that up there. But that's not a human created factor, so it certainly isn't pollution. Although if you wanted to call it pollution, that is certainly nature's doing, what have you. But the question is, why are we doing this? And I think a lot of and my frustration with this and my concern is we have an issue like space debris where we don't even have a good solid definition or a good grasp on how to define space objects as space debris. But now we're jumping and conflating it and creating this whole new term that confuses the issue more. And I don't know if that's more reason we just don't want to deal with the idea of defining space debris and just try to define a new term or use a new term that will evoke sympathy, evoke emotions, and evoke knee-jerk reactions and create this really non-existent link, I think, between Earth-based, terrestrial-based environmental laws and outer space. So again, in Viasat's case, I think that's absolutely trying to do. They're trying to make that connection with NEPA, being applicable to outer space by calling it pollution instead of orbital space debris, and actually at the same time ignoring the fact that the FCC basically deals with or addresses space debris. And on the other hand, pollution is going to grab the attention of whoever is looking over that motion, whoever's going, and potentially the judge itself. And I think outside of that, with academia and nonprofit organizations and others who are really pushing the idea of sustainability, this might be a more, how can you say, emotional, reactive term instead of a logically thought through process. In other words, let's deal with the topic of space debris. Let's figure out what space debris is, and that way we can take the next step and make decisions about it. So again, the whole idea of space pollution, it really bothers me, and I think it's going to cause more problems than it's going to really benefit anything. Overall, I think it's a political thing. I think it's political as opposed to a logical, thought out legal construct to use. So How this turns out, who knows? But again, I'm really, really not crazy about the term space pollution. Just like space debris. I don't know what space debris is. I mean, I articulated a potential test to identify space debris, but how do you define space pollution? I mean, if you can't define space debris to begin with, how are you going to define space pollution? Because obviously, space pollution is going to be related to space debris in some respect. And if you can't define one, how are you going to define the other? Big issue, and unfortunately, I think it's going to cause more confusion. I think it's really going to hamper this idea of sustainability of outer space. And unfortunately, I think it's really going to it's something that's more to grab attention, to grab headlines, to evoke emotions, as opposed to logically and reasonably thinking out these issues and actually providing a solution. In other words, I think it's creating a new problem where a problem doesn't exist instead of finding a solution back with the idea of space debris. So just a little bit of a comment, something that was bothering me over this past week. But there you have it. So anyways, I'm going to get out and enjoy some of the nice weather we're having. I hope the weather where you are is good, and I hope you're healthy, and we'll talk to you next time.